Jara Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Shri Vijay Gauranga Devanitai ki Srila Prabhupada Maharaj ki Jai Gaura Premanande. Okay. Thank you, dear devotees, for your coming here today. And we are going to continue our reading and trying to engage our minds into this wonderful transcendental topics. And we will traditionally start from reading from the Transcendental Diary, which was composed by Harishauri Das, actually Harishauri Prabhu. And so now we are going to read the next letter, which Srila Prabhupada received. And it was going on in Vrindavan Dham during the 9th of November, if I'm not mistaken. 9th of November. Okay. So, Srila Prabhupada received a letter from Mr. S.N. Sharma offering to make available some land in a precious location in Delhi. Of course, Prabhupada has had many offers of land in various Indian cities in the past, but invariably they are always encumbered either with some conditions designed to benefit the donor or some legal complication that makes it extremely difficult to utilize. Sometimes the land is some useless plot that the owner wants to dispose of. Prabhupada is therefore cautious and doesn't get too excited about such offers. We will read the next paragraph as well. Mr. Sharma's offer, if it may be called that, since he didn't actually say he wanted to give us the land, is for a substantial amount of property in a good location. The man has been to our land in Juhu, Bombay, and was suitably impressed. Swamiji, it is my earnest desire that you should consider to have a big ashram in Delhi, which is the nerve center of India. I can make available about 15,000 square yards of land just very close to Connaught Place. The site is most ideal for such an ashram. Typically, there were some conditions, but according to the latest laws, the land has to be utilized for the benefit of the weaker section of the Indian society. So you have to think of a project in which such class of people can be benefited. I shall be very happy to know your views in the matter. So we can see that Srila Prabhupada, he had a lot of different offerings, so to say, but not all of them were suitable for getting those purposes which Srila Prabhupada had. So, it's for people, it's very, they like to pose themselves like very good and generous people, so they can share everything and they can donate and know a lot. But actually, sometimes those things which they want to donate, they don't have a big value. So, for instance, somebody can come and say, "Oh, I can give you, a big bag of toys for your children," for instance. Okay, and you open this bag, and all the toys, they are broken or dirty or completely useless. So it seems to be it's a very good present, but actually it's not. So sometimes we can see that the situations were very different, and but anyway, Srila Prabhupada, he wanted to utilize everything in the highest purposes. So he wanted to do the best as possible to use everything what he had. And So later I think we will read what will happen after this situation. So, but anyway, Srila Prabhupada, he had a big headache with dealings with these plots, different plots which devotees or people wanted to donate, and it was really, sometimes it was a big drama around these situations. But nevertheless, Srila Prabhupada was struggling, and he really did his best for trying to use everything in service to Krishna. So maybe you want to add something, to comment, to oppose? Okay. And now we are going to read Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, we are reading from the Canto 5, the 8th chapter. And as we know, this chapter is called the character about Bharata Maharaj, but in Russian translation it is called the story about how Maharaja Bharata became a deer. So completely different name of the chapter. So, but it's very interesting when you can read in different translations, different interesting experience. So now we are on the verse number 26. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 This verse is again in plain, and it's quite big. I will try to read it. Evam aghatamana manoratha kula hridayo mriga daraka bhasena Svarabdha karmana yogarambha nato vibhramshita sa yogatapaso bhagavad aradhana lokshanaj chakatham itaratha jati antara enakunaka asanga sakhan Shreyasa pratipakshataya prak pratya parityakta dushtaya hridaya bhijatasya tasya ivam antaraya vihata yogarambhanasya rajarsher bharatasya tavan mrigarbhaka poshana Palana prinana lalana nusangena vigyanayata atmanam ahir ivakhu bilam duratikramaha kalaha karala rabhasa apadyata. So the word by word translation. Evam. In that way. Aghatamana. Impossible to be achieved. Manaharatha. By desires. Which are like mental chariots. Akula. Aggrieved. Hridayaha. Whose heart. Mrigadaraka abhashana. Mrigadaraka abhashana. Resembling the son of a deer. Sva aradha. Karmana. By the bad results. of his unseen fruitive actions. Yoga arambhanataha, from the activities of yoga, performances. Vibramshitaha, fallen down. Saha, he Maharaja Bharata. Yoga tapasaha, executing the activities of mystic yoga and austerities. Bhagavat Aradhana Lakshanat, from the activities of devotional service rendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Cha, and Kadham, how. Itaratha, else. Jati antare, belonging to a different species of life. Enakunake, to the body of a deer calf. Asangaha, so much. Affectionate attachment. Affectionate attachment. Sakshat, directly. Nishreyasa, to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Pratipakshataya, with the quality of being an obstacle. With the quality of being an obstacle. Prag, who previously. Parityakta, given up. Dushtaya, although very difficult to give up. Hridaya abhijatasya, his sons born in his own heart. His sons born on his own heart. Tasya, of him. Evam, thus. Antaraya, by that obstacle. Vihata, obstructed. Yoga arambhanasya, whose path of executing the mystic yoga practices. Rajarshekh, of the great saintly king. Bharatasya, of Maharaja Bharata. Tavat, in that way. Mriga Arbhaka, the son of a deer. Posana, in maintaining. Palana, in protecting. Prinana, in making happy. Lalana, in fondling. Anusangana, by constant absorption, I think, yes? Absorption. Aviganayataha, neglecting. Atmanam, his own soul. Ahihiva, like a serpent. Akubilam, the whole of a mouse. Duratikramaha, unsurprisable. Unsurpassable. Kalaha, ultimate death. Karala, terrible. Rabhashaha, having speed. Apadyata, arrived. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami continued, My dear king, in this way Bharata Maharaja was overwhelmed by an uncontrollable desire which was manifest in the form of the deer. Due to the fruitive results of his past deeds, he fell down from mystic yoga, austerity and worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If it were not due to his past fruitive activity, how could he have been attracted to the deer after giving up the association of his own son and family, considering them stumbling blocks on the path of spiritual life? How could he show such uncontrollable affection for a deer? This was definitely due to his past karma. The king was so engrossed in petting and maintaining the deer that he fell down from his spiritual activities. In due course of time, insurmountable death, which is compared to a venomous snake that enters the hole created by a mouse, situated itself before him. The purport of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Purport. As will be seen in later verses, Bharata Maharaja, at the time of death, as will be seen in later verses, Bharata Maharaja, at the time of death, would be forced to accept the body of a deer due to his attraction for the deer. In this regard, a question may be raised. How can a devotee be affected to his past misconduct and vicious activities? In Brahma Samhita 5.54, it is said, Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. For those engaged in devotional service, bhakti bhajana, the results of the past deeds are indemnified. According to this, Bharata Maharaj could not be punished for these past misdeeds. The conclusion must be that Maharaja Bharata purposefully became over-addicted to the deer and neglected his spiritual advancement. To immediately rectify this mistake, for a short time he was awarded the body of a deer. This was just to increase his desire for mature devotional service. Although Bharata Maharaja was awarded the body of an animal, he did not forget what had previously happened due to his purposeful mistake. He was very anxious to get out of this deer body, and this indicates that his affection for devotional service was intensified, so much so that he was quickly to attain perfection in a Brahmana body in the next life. It is with the conviction that we declare in our Back to Godhead magazine that devotees like the Goswamis living in Vrindavana, who purposely commit some sinful activity, are born in the bodies of dogs, monkeys, and tortoises in that holy land. Thus, they take on these lower life forms for a short while, and after they give up those animal bodies, they are again promoted to the spiritual world. Such punishment is only for a short period, and it is not due to past karma. It may appear to be due to past karma, but it is offered to rectify the devotee and bring him to pure devotional service. So, first of all, it is really amazing how long we can discuss such a relatively short story, because a yogi, he was practicing, he was attached to a deer, and then he had some problems. But for so many days we can discuss this, and we can see a lot of different aspects, a lot of different angles, and a lot of lessons. Actually, it's the most prominent lesson is one, and it's quite obvious, but anyway, that's the beauty of scriptures, that we can really try to engage our mind in thinking about this from different angles. So what we have here now, we are at the point of time when it's a culmination, yes? So we have that this result that Maharaj Bharata, he is about to die. And first of all, reading this purport, we can see several topics, but I would like to start from analyzing that Srila Prabhupada added at the end his reference to his article in Back to Godhead. As you know, it was a magazine which Srila Prabhupada started, if I'm not mistaken, in 1944? No? Don't you know? I'm not sure, but anyway, so that was a magazine which Srila Prabhupada was working with it. I mean, he was writing articles, so he created this magazine, trying to preach in this way to people in India, and he was distributing this magazine, and he wrote the article about Goswamis. I tried to find one article about this. I'm not sure, maybe it wasn't exactly which Srila Prabhupada mentioned it here, but there he discussed the topic of the position of Goswami. So who are Goswamis? So what's this idea? But first of all, you know, we sometimes can think that, oh, there must be only nectar in the scriptures, you know, nectar. Where is this nectar? And here Srila Prabhupada is writing about some Goswamis, that they can do some things and they become an animal. It's not, you know, nectarian topics. And actually, when Srila Prabhupada wrote this article about Goswamis, and he distributed his magazine, and it actually caused some troubles because the Goswamis, who were very prominent at that time in Vrindavan Dham and actually all over India, they were not very happy to read about themselves, you know, such comments. And it was quite risky, but anyway, Srila Prabhupada, he was not very disturbed by the reaction of these people. And even though he said that he was clearly stated that a lot of people like these, I mean, having the status of Goswami, the name of Goswami, but they were committing sinful activities living in the holy Dham. And so, because even if people did that, those people who knew that these Goswamis did some things, they didn't speak about that, especially openly. So it was some maybe rumors or something. And anyway, the status of being Goswamis, it wasn't like unbreakable. Yes, so these people, they were pujaris in the temples. So they were leaders of, religious leaders in the society. And here, Srila Prabhupada, he's just saying, okay, these people, they are misleading, and they will attain the lower species, lower forms of life. So it was quite brave. And Srila Prabhupada, anyway, he was writing this and he was saying about it openly, and it caused not very good reaction, and so that's why at that point of time the attitude of these people living in Vrindavan, these Goswamis, it wasn't very favorable to ISKCON and to Srila Prabhupada because of these things. But anyway, Srila Prabhupada was so convinced, and he tried to make the distinction what is right and what is wrong, because it's really essential in spiritual life to understand what is good and what is not for the spiritual life. And that's why that article which I came across it was written in May 1974, so at least I have that information. So and in that article, Srila Prabhupada wrote about the Goswamis, who are the Goswamis, original Goswamis, and who are just false so-called Goswamis. And he was mentioning different aspects of that. And for instance, I mean, the first one is that Goswami is a person who can control the senses. Otherwise, if he serves the senses, he is Godasa. He's not Goswami, but Godasa. So the Goswamis, and he was many times bringing the examples of 6 Goswamis. They were so renounced, so extremely renounced, and not only renounced, but I mean this renouncement, it was shown like manifested in different qualities of these Goswamis. For instance, they conquered the dhara, sleep. I mean, they didn't want to sleep much because they were not engaged in, I mean, they were happy not to sleep because they were engaged in blissful activities in Krishna consciousness, so they were not interested in sleeping. And there are many points of that, and they were dear to all the residents, I mean, to all kinds of people, because they could come, I mean, those people who are not spiritually minded or just common people, they could come and approach to these Goswamis, and they could have some advices, and these advices help them to live their lives. And there many other points were mentioned there, but and that they are always engaged in kirtana. But kirtan, also Srila Prabhupada writes, it's not only just singing and playing the instrument, but it's also writing books, reading books, cooking for the Lord, even eating and maintaining your body for the Lord. But actually the idea is 24 hours be engaged in thoughts of Lord Krishna. And do you know the verses which can be examples of this? Which verse in Gita says about that we should engage our mind in service? Yeah. Mom. Yeah, so that's the verse. So that we have to, I mean, the Goswamis, they were examples, so they already did that. But in Gita, we have this instruction, we have to engage our mind. So it means that we have to force a little bit ourselves, yes, to do that, because our mind doesn't want to do that. But the stage of Goswamis, it means they even don't force themselves. It's just natural way of thinking for them. So, and at the end of this article about Goswamis, Srila Prabhupada, he wrote that so they, I mean the original Goswamis, they lived in an ideal way and they set the example for others to follow. Simply by following in their footsteps, our lives will become successful. We should ignore the many pseudo Goswamis and simply try to follow the real Goswamis. In this way, our lives may become successful. So again, so Srila Prabhupada often, he says, oh, Goswamis, they are so nice, but you should distinguish pseudo Goswamis. So they're real and not real. So all the time he's saying about this. I mean, in every topics which he discusses. So coming back to our and actually, the idea of the idea to distinguish among matter and spirit, is very prominent because it's very difficult when you are not on the stage of Goswamis. Yes, you can be bewildered easily because material world seems to be so various. there are so many different things here, and for us, trying to do our first steps in spiritual life, it's extremely difficult. We are quite dull and unexperienced, and it's difficult to understand. So that's why we have to engage our mind and use these, instructions, these books, these prompts, which we have in the spiritual literature, and in association with sadhus, of course, and guru. So that was the part of purport where Srila Prabhupada was saying about Goswamis, and the beginning of it, about this situation with Maharaja Bharata, what we can see here. So we see that Bharata Maharaj, he was in extremely high level, but he slipped on his way. So, a person when he runs, he can slip sometimes. Yeah, slip and fall down. Yes. So, but anyway, we can compare some. Just like mundane example. For instance, a sportsman, he's running a distance, big distance for a short time because he's a sportsman. He's very strong and fit, and so he can run this, 10 kilometers in 10 minutes or so. So he really does a great job. So it's a glorious that what he's doing. And he can make some mistake on his way, after running half of it, he can slip, and we shouldn't concentrate exactly on, he's such a bad person, he slipped and that's it. No, we actually should understand that he's a big personality and he's doing a great job and glorious actions, but anyway, the fact that this slip, so to say, it is described in Bhagavatam in such a, it is a lot of verses in describing it, it means that it is important. And we have to take the lesson of it and understand the importance of this lesson, like a warning. So, and the fact is that he really slipped. He slipped on the way. So we should distinguish that there is a path and there is an obstacles. So we shouldn't think that, that's everything is just, a bliss, it's just leelas and this and that. No, there is a real danger. And of course, we also know that anything what person tries to do regarding his spiritual progress, it will be preserved, so he will not lose it. But in the case of Bharata Maharaj, we can see that after his mistake, he recovered very quickly. So he realized his mistake very quickly, and even if he was put into the body of a deer, so the story which will go on, it will show that anyway he reached the goal. Yes, he reached the purpose, but because he was, a big personality. But in the case of common people, it's not a fact that we also will recover quite fast. We can sleep and lie down for many years just without recovering. So we can just waste a lot of time. So the purpose of these warnings, for us to take them in our minds and really try to be careful, extremely careful, not to sleep, or at least do our best. And what else? Did you notice any kind of contradiction in this purport? Contradiction in this purpose when there was a verse, part of the verse from Brahma Samhita saying that for those who are engaged in devotional service, the results of fruitive activities will not influence them. So on the one hand, we can see that Bharata Maharaj, he was a devotee. Yes, so he was practicing Krishna consciousness. So it's supposed that the results of his previous deeds will not influence him. But on the other hand, we read in the verse that Of course, it was because of his previous actions. He did this mistake and he was over-attached to this deer. So it seems to be like contradiction. So he shouldn't be influenced by these by the results of his previous actions, even if he maybe did them. So what's going on? Is it karma or not? Yes, Mataji.
It's written in the purpose that the Lord gave it for a purpose. He gave there, so he died and received the body of the deer, so that he can more quickly develop this eagerness for the devotional service.
Yes.
His consciousness remained, but the body was it was a deer body, so that he could develop. Nevertheless, he was in the deer body. He could develop his eagerness even more.
Yes. So the result was really nice. So I mean, the result was spiritual because he could progress even though not having a lower type of body. But anyway, his consciousness was boosted, so to say. It was moving very fast to the spiritual goals. Yes. At the same time, we can see that. So I mean, it's a tricky moment. That was he overcoming of this attachment to the deer? So could he do something with this attachment or not? So was he hopeless in this regard or not? How do you think? How do you think? You don't. Okay. Был ли он способен противостоять вот этой возможности поддаваться этому влиянию, чтобы привязаться к олененку? Well, we can speculate a little bit. Yes?
Yeah, if you take shelter by Krishna, don't do this.
You don't do this?
Or his own spiritual master, but he's dead, so yeah.
Well, but you see, he was practicing Krishna consciousness almost 24 hours. You know, he was praying in the previous verses we read. He was praying and meditating all the time, and then boom, this deer appeared.
Yeah, and then he stops.
He stopped praying. Ah, so you mean that because of that he was able? Oh, yes, actually it is. That's true. That's true. So, I heard from the lecturer, from my spiritual master. I'm not so, enlightened person. So, and I heard this explanation that Bharata Maharaj, he had this platform of higher knowledge. So he knew about the soul, about reincarnation, about God, about material life. So his first steps, I mean, that he renounced life in the palace, this state of being a king and everything. So he could do this because he was understanding what's going on. So he understood that it's not important so much. But when this situation with the deer happened, that was like, showing that he had some kind of seeds in his heart, some kind of desires to protect, just to be like, shelter giver, so that he can protect, everybody. So this tiny seed, it was actually an obstacle in his spiritual life. But at that point, he had that power, because he had that knowledge that it's bad, he didn't use it. So the mistake was that he could do it, but he didn't. He could to act in different way, not just to save this deer, but he didn't do that. And that was the reason that the story went this way. And sometimes we can think, okay, should Maharaj Bharata let this deer die? I mean, not exactly die, but should he act in a way that not to be disturbed with this deer, or just preserve his, meditation and just be engaged in Krishna consciousness? And actually the answer is yes, because this progress, in Krishna consciousness, it's the most important thing, and we shouldn't compromise it with some other minor things. But from the material point of view, it may seem like to be cruel, and they think, oh, these Hare Krishnas, they're so cruel. Why do they think that this some kind of mind speculation is more important than your life of a small little nice creature? That's a speculation. A speculation is that we consider some material things more important than spiritual, because otherwise, anyway, the body dies. Every day, a lot of deers are eaten by the tigers and everything. A lot of animals really die, because in their natural way. So we are not God, we are not protectors of everybody. So the first thing, we have to save our soul, first of all, yes? And anyway, this animal has its own karma and the faith. And anyway, so this, we really should distinguish what is important, what is not. But at the same time, we shouldn't imitate, this Bharata Maharaj, because Bharata Maharaj, he was able to be engaged in meditation for a long time. Yes, so he was really highly elevated. And if something happens, we are sitting chanting our japa, and then something happens with your neighbor, and you are able to help him, but you will not, because, oh yes, I remember about Bharata Maharaj, I will not disturb my, my pure chant of the holy names. Well, actually, if it is like this, maybe you shouldn't. If you really chant the names purely, maybe that will be better for you not to disturb your chanting. But in the common sense, we should use our intelligence and, of course, try to do our best, but not to overdo that, not too much. So in some, we should feel some measures. That the focus anyway should be in Krishna. So, and the other lesson that Bharata Maharaj, he was almost there. He was almost perfect, but this almost, it means he wasn't perfect still. So it's the same like you are hungry and you want to cook, to eat halava, and the cook says, yeah, you can take this halava. But it's not halava yet, it's almost halava, you just put some milk and it's not cooked yet, but it looks like halava, but it's not the halava yet. So this position of almost, it's really important to understand. It means that it will take us a long time to get to this perfection, and unless we are not there, we should be really careful and we should try our best not to sleep. Sleep, не подскальзываться, not to sleep. So. Yes, and we have the verse in Bhagavad Gita 3:36, where, Mataji, can you help me with Bhagavad Gita? I don't have it. No, I don't have it. Maybe somebody knows. 3:36. Yes. In German, okay.
Should I read it?
Yes, please read the Sanskrit translation.
Arjuna uvacha athakena prayuktoyam papam charati purusha anichannapi vasneya baladivani yojita. Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force?
Yes, it means that as if he's. So sometimes we think that, we are so, we're so weak, and this lust or something, we can be overcome by it. But actually, that luck that we have the spiritual knowledge, it's like, a big muscles for us. So this knowledge, helps us to overcome, to act in a proper way. So if we have some urgence, when our senses, they want something to be done, but having this transcendental knowledge, it's like muscles which say no, no, no to our senses. So we should try to control them. Not try, a little bit. I'll try a little bit. No, we should really try to control ourselves, but because the spirit is much stronger than the matter. We are tiny, tiny parts of Lord Krishna, who is fully spiritual, but knowing about him and having this transcendental knowledge, we should use it and use it all the time, and trying to control these things which can lead us on the other direction. So we have to restrict them and to control. So because the opposite example is when materialistic people, maybe it seems to be quite offensive, to call people materialistic and this and that. But the idea is not to offend them, but to appreciate the knowledge which bring us to the high levels when we can control the senses. Because when you say to people who do not have this knowledge, please stop taking alcohol, and you can bring a lot of facts, it's so bad to your health, this and that, you will die sooner if you will not do that anyway. So so you can have a lot of arguments, but because the senses, they want some kind of enjoyment, even if it will bring some harm to the body, a person who doesn't have this strength, this spiritual strength, they cannot resist. And or at least some rare souls, maybe they can, but the common, ordinary people, it's a great challenge for them, and they're just, giving up. Oh yeah, what can I do? A little bit of wine or something, or cigarettes, or anyway. So the idea is that, this statement that materialistic people, they cannot control themselves, it is really true. We shouldn't use it as an offense, but we have to clearly understand that people who do not have this spiritual knowledge, and Hare Krishna, Pramana, so they cannot resist their senses, and that's why they are, becoming weaker and weaker and weaker, and they are in, falling down this material life, and they have a lot of problems. They don't understand what is the purpose of life, and so they are, bewildered, so to say, bewildered in this material life. So we have to appreciate this knowledge and to try our best to use the lessons from it. So as we can see, Bharata Maharaj, he became like a mother to this deer, 24 hours. Instead of chanting the holy names 24 hours, he was, taking care of the deer 24 hours. And the result was madness. And we can see people who do not have this, higher ideas, they are also engaged in 24 hours in sinful activities, and but they have an alternative, but they don't know about it. So our duty is to tell them about this. And like Prahlad Maharaj, he said in his prayers that with me everything is all right. I'm satisfied, everything is fine. But when I'm looking at these people who are suffering, but maybe they don't realize even that they are suffering, he feels real spiritual compassion to them. So he acts accordingly. So he was preaching to his, children in this Gurukul, so-called Gurukul. So in the same mood with Srila Prabhupada, he was saying about this, oh, you're materialistic, you will become cats and dogs, and you are rascals and everything, because he wanted to show them that, come on, that's not a proper way for you. You can live some other kind of life, so you should control yourself. So, and this empowerment, which is in the spiritual literatures, in Shastra, in Guru, in Sadhu, they give us this spiritual force when we can resist these urgents. So we have to appreciate and trying to do our best. And then even if we will have a little progress, tiny progress in this life, it will remain with us, but we have to preserve it in this way, not, okay, nothing will happen with my spiritual progress, so let me have a little something, alternative, some relaxation, I didn't take alcohol for so long, so maybe a little bit will not do a lot of harm. No, you see, what can be a harm with the deer? Deer, it's not an alcohol or something, it's just an animal, nice and very beautiful. No, the danger is there because we have a lot of desires in our heart which can manifest in different forms, but the idea is the same. It can become a real obstacle and the results will be suffering. There is no point in suffering. I mean, we should avoid it and we should try to do our best. Okay, and for that we should have a nice association with devotees and really trying to discuss these topics, because when we are thinking about it, when you are preparing to a lecture, you read much better with bigger attention than anyway. Even if you can read in your normal regular state, just, for 2 hours, you will remember, 20%. But when you're trying to, in preparation, then you're so concentrated. And it's really a bliss and it's really a mercy, to be engaged in that. So I'm really grateful for all of you that you survived this talk, so to say. And maybe you have some kind of realizations in this matter when you tried to resist something and you did it good, or for instance, you had some real problems and you realized that, oh no, I should not do this mistake or something. Maybe you can share a little bit. Yes.
Two things came in my mind. First thing is that he's written in the verse that he rejected his wife and his children in order to make, because he considered it as an obstacle. Maybe it was also a mistake to do it because actually he had this desire to take care of someone. So this came in my mind. Maybe otherwise it wouldn't happen if he would have family and normally take care of his family, which he rejected actually. And
Maybe.
the second thing is that it was another yuga, it was not Kali Yuga, and the process was another development. It was not only chanting. He's written that he rejected the yoga process and worshipping to the Lord. So maybe the whole process was more difficult than now. If he just chanted, maybe it would not disturb his process like now. But in those days, the process would be maybe more opulent, I don't know.
Well, actually, I think that the process was quite authorized, because at that time they had some, family gurus or something. So it was, a common thing in life when the king, after some point of time, he just rejects and he goes to the forest. It was regular practice. And the exact practice of, sometimes it says a mystic yoga or Bhakti yoga. So anyway, it was spiritual path. Actually, he was, of course, worshipping God. It wasn't so important in what way it was done. I mean, maybe it was not only chanting. He was making some prayers. Maybe he was doing some asanas. I don't know. But the point was that there was some authorized process. He should go through it, but he purposely stopped it. And in some previous verses, we could read that he was sitting and making a show of doing meditation. So he knew what he should do, so he understood that he should meditate, but he was just playing with the deer instead of it. So we can see that he had the knowledge what he should do, but the point is that he didn't do that. Or at least he stopped doing that in some point of time.
My point was that if it was been this yoga, maybe it wouldn't happen to this, because the process is
No, I think that the point was that he did this mistake. So because in our yuga we could be
We do permanently these mistakes, and
yeah, I mean the form could be other. It could be not the deer, but some apsara going down around, or some, I don't know, an iPhone lying in the tree, and you will be attracted to this iPhone. Or I don't know. I mean the form. Of course, the form can be different, but the idea is that he understood that he is doing something wrong. But he had power not to do that mistake. So that's the point. The power is there, but he doesn't use it because of some compromise. And you said about something else? The third one? No? Okay.
Шрила говорит здесь в комментарии, что у него действительно не было грехов, все было сожжено через преданное служение. Но так как он был царем, его в обязанности входило именно защищать своих подданных.
Wait a second. Prabhu, can you please translate this?
Okay, so Prabhupada here in the purport says that all the sins in his heart were burned by devotional service. But as he was king, and the responsibility of the king is to protect others.
То естественно, что в его сердце вот эти желания оставались, еще какие-то там, вот как вы говорили, ваш духовный учитель говорит, что семена были такие. Вот в этой жизни, что мы делаем, да, вот когда мы занимаемся преданным служением, наши тоже грехи сжигаться, может не так быстро и не всех, это зависит от нашей интенсивности служения и повторения святых имен, но это прошедшая карма сжигается, а вот то, что мы сейчас делаем, это уже новая карма. И
Сейчас Prabhu перейдем.
So, but still some seed of some desires was still in his heart. And now also maybe we are doing our devotional service, and our past karma is also getting burned. It also of course depends on the intensity of our service, but at the same time we are doing something new. We have some new karma now.
И вот эта карма, если мы не связываем наши действия с Кришной, то она не сжигается.
And this new karma, if we do not connect our actions to Krishna, this new karma doesn't get burned.
Поэтому вот возможно, что у Бхарата Махараджа что-то он не связывал с Богом, не все связывал.
Олененка.
Да. Ну не олененка, а может вот именно это желание защищать беззащитных каких-то существ. Может быть, я думаю, что вот эти у него остались желания. И так как он, может быть, и не все связал тогда. Вот это совершенство отречения. Кришна говорит в 18 главе Бхагавадгиты. Совершенство отречения все нужно связывать. Даже саньяси чистку зубов связывают с Господом. Они делают это для Господа. Если что-то делаешь, хоть что-то маленькое для себя, то вот оно остается в сердце, это желание, и потом вот так это получается.
So maybe Bharata Maharaja was not connecting his actions with Krishna. And also in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that we have, it's called the perfection of renunciation, that we have to connect everything with Krishna. And sannyasis, they even connect brushing their teeth with Krishna. So everything has to be connected with Krishna.
Вот Ирина высказала мнение по поводу, какая это была юга. Это явно была не сати-юга, потому что уже процесс медитации Бхарата Махараджа уже там уже варна-ашрама была, ванадраус, конец Трита-юги, думаю, начало Двапара.
So, and about the time when the story
не работал, действительно, не работал на 100%.
So it was about the time when this story happened. I think that it was maybe the end of Treta Yuga and or the beginning of Dwapara Yuga, because already there was an ashrama and ashramas. Yes, and already there was varnashrama, so and it was already like meditation and some rituals, so maybe it was.
Yeah, but I think that if maybe this meditation it would work if he wouldn't be distracted by the deer. Distracted by the deer. Yeah. So. Okay. Yes, Prabhu, you wanted to add something also.
Wenn Sie fertig sind. Sind Sie fertig?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I didn't want to add something. I just wanted to ask about something because I was looking at the picture of the notebook of Maurice Prabhu during the lecture, and I was seeing this lovely cow with Krishna. And then it came to my mind because we're talking about Bharata Maharaj being so much attached to the deer, which is an animal, but at the same time it's a soul inside the deer's body.
Sure.
And the cow is also similar, it's an animal, we consider it holy, but it's also a soul inside the body of the cow. But the question is why Krishna has chosen only the cow to be holy, and in ISKCON we take care of the cows and protect them, but it's not considered material. But all other animals, if we take care of them, it's material. So why is it so different?
Because the form of taking care is quite different, and the purpose is also different. Because you see, the cows, they are not just a fact that they are animals, but they give milk. They give cow dung, they give this o-ring, and everything which is coming out of their bodies, they are very useful, practically useful. And this is the only product, one of the main products which should be used for having yagyas. And we cannot use something else, some sunflower oil or something, because that's a prescribed method how to serve God in making yagyas. So that's the point, that if the cows will be killed so much, we will not be able to do the yagyas. And that's horrible. And actually that's what's going on, this chaotic life and madness. That's because people do not follow the instructions. So that's the idea. The cow is holy not because it's just a cow, but because it is a very useful animal in this regard. So and actually the cow dung, it's so purifying that it can purify in a subtle sphere. Nothing else can be. Maybe some, I don't know, incenses, but again, they are made with cow dung, usual traditional, yes, so they can purify the atmosphere. And when there is something should be built, or I know maybe on the temples or not, on the place where cows were, making their footprints, how to say, it considered to be a very auspicious place for construction. So in many ways, in many aspects, cows are so, and you see then drinking milk, it's also, it's written in Shastra that it helps to develop the subtle body of our brains to be able to understand deeply spiritual topics. It's also, yes.
I have another part of this same question. So let's say, for example, I'm living at a farm community, or I want to take care of cows to facilitate these products of the cow dung and milk and ghee and everything like this. So if I develop some kind of attachment or love to the cows because they are also so sattvic and so have so much pure qualities, is it something bad or is it good?
If you develop just love to the cow, and you will forget to chant your rounds and read the books, I think that would be a problem, Even if you will taking care of it very nicely, you will become a cow. You can become a cow in your next life. So you have to choose what you want. So, yes.
If it's a Krishna conscious farm community, take care of the cows, Krishna's cows.
But you can verbinden with Krishna.
Yeah, it does. We do it because it's not only cows.
Yes, but
Krishna conscious way.
yeah, it's, you know, you cannot avoid it, even if you try to. You see, because if Bharata Maharaj would taking care of this deer and going on with his practice with the same strength, nothing bad would happen. But we see the opposite result, and that's the idea, that it is showing to us to understand that if you do like this, you have problems. If you do like this, the problems would be much less. So of course they will be there, but you will not waste a lot of time or with recovering of these mistakes.
Кришна исполняет все желания.
Krishna is fulfilling all desires.
Даже другой Махарадж, когда он хотел, увидел Кришну, и уже у него как бы не было желаний больше царствовать, но все равно ему дал такую возможность.
And even Dhruva Maharaj, when he saw Krishna personally, he didn't have this desire anymore to rule the kingdom. But still,
Все равно он ему дал возможность царствовать долгие годы.
But still, Krishna allowed him to govern about the whole universe.
Поэтому, если у нас есть еще какие-то желания, Кришна нам всегда даст возможность. Если желание ухаживать за коровом, можете и в следующей жизни ухаживать дальше за коровом. Это желание будет исполняться.
That's why Krishna always fulfill our desires, and when we still have this desire to take care of the cow, he will give their facilities.
Также у Бхарата Махараджа было желание кого-то защитить.
In the same way, Bharata Maharaj had the desire to protect
Поэтому
someone.
Кришна и тоже исполнил это желание, но он это дал нам в назидание, эту историю, чтобы мы видели, как это, какие результаты. Результаты всегда непредсказуемы.
Yes, and actually I wanted to add that really Krishna is so, God, Krishna, the personality of Godhead, he is so perfect that he does some special arrangement to each person in some specific way. Because to somebody, like in case of Dhruva Maharaj, he did in this way, yes, and to the Bharata Maharaj, he acted in some other way. And do you remember the story about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya with Lord Chaitanya? This Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was preaching to Lord, explaining scriptures, and Lord Chaitanya, he was sitting and humbly listening to his explanations. And then boom, he was just showing that you are wrong, you don't understand this properly. And so, I mean, the arrangement are so different to other. So, and the God, he also has different purposes. So, doing one action, he fulfills many desires and many goals. So, he elevates this person. That's the first thing. Then he shows the example to others. Then he is just taking pleasure in doing this, in cooperating with devotees. So it's a huge variety of emotions, and it's very useful. Everything what God does, it's extremely useful, and it's bliss. What to say?
So we see that Krishna anyway take care of his devotees. So why we have to concern?
Yeah, let's do everything what we want to.
Why we have to concern?
We have to concern because wasting time and suffering, it's also it can be also arrangement of God. But if you want to suffer and if you want to have a long way to God, you can go this way, and God will help you with that. But if you want to make it faster and directly, you can also have this option. So the idea is we have to use it in these prompts.
Faster is not always the better way, actually, like life shows.
Individually, well, yes, but you see, Srila Prabhupada was pushing that, come on, do this during this lifetime, don't take a risk of taking birth again. Of course, who can do it? Who can say, oh, for sure I will do this in this life? We cannot be sure, definitely. But anyway, this blessing is there. The idea is we will use it or not.
I think the fact this consideration about faster is not always the best. It's a material consideration. In material life, it works like that. But for us devotees, as fast as you
Actually,
can.
Niranjan Swami said that we have to become devotee step by step, not make in this what I wanted to say. Faster means быстро. Ну, то есть не постепенно. When we step over, when we перепрыгиваем.
To be guided in that, yeah, that's for sure. I wanted to add that you said that Krishna may give you another life of taking care of the cows in Goloka Vrindavan. You can become a carnivore in the next life if you take care of the cows. Yes, like Lord Chaitanya himself, he said that he was born as a Brahman only because he took care of the cows in his previous life as Krishna. Of course, it's Krishna, but anyway, he said that.
Okay, we are out of time, so thank you, dear devotees, for coming and for discussing these wonderful topics. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gauradesh.